What, if anything, has Texas done to protect our coast, especially our wildlife refuges like our beloved Woodland Range habitat? That's from Ricky in Corpus Christi. And a related question from Linda in Port Aransas. Is there a plan to offer oil cleanup training to the civilian population in Texas if it comes our way? And if so, when will that program begin? And who might offer it?
Two responses, two good questions. I would tell you that where we are lucky here in Texas is our barrier island system, so the longest barrier islands in the world. Those sand barriers, just as they protected us from big stock almost 30 years ago, that's what we have in front of us that Louisiana doesn't have, and in fact, what they did have, they lost to hurricanes. Their wetlands are exposed directly to this oil, and you see the results yourself. We're lucky in that we have those sand barrier islands, so long as we protect them, we'll be in good shape there, I think, and all we'll have to do with our looking at protecting oil from coming into passage. The second part of your question, yes. In fact, here at Texas A&M in Corpus Christi, we have the National Oil Spill School. And if you are interested, I know that our new director there is working very closely with others around the Gulf to address this very issue, to how we can provide that training and be ready for situations that we have to deal with. So if you are interested, you can certainly contact the City University at the Oil Spill School and get that information, and wish you would. I know they would like to hear from you. That'd be Tony Woods there at the National Oil Spill School. Anything from anyone? Pretty good. Okay. All right. One of the areas. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. There is a question here, so please.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Erin Nicholas. You all know I'm a Center for Coastal Studies here at UCC. I have a question for David Kaskis. David, you mentioned the ecosystem value in terms of wetlands, barrier islands as our forefront and protection from storms. Those wetlands and barrier islands get covered with oil. Of course, we have a huge biological loss, but will they lose their value as storm surge protection?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I'd have to maybe refer part of that question to my colleagues, because it really depends upon what's going to happen with those wetlands. If they get covered, will they die back? And if they die back, then they'll lose some of those services, such as storm surge protection. But I'm not sure in terms of the biology, ecology, what we would expect to have happen.
And how about the barrier islands? Those are more structural.
Yes, and so if we're looking at the barrier islands, and we see the images right now of what they're calling these tar balls or tar pancakes washing up on these beaches. If it just stays within the sand and the beaches, that's one thing. I mean, the surfaces there won't be as impacted. But if we get a tropical storm, it pushes that up into the dunes and starts to impact those vegetation, and that's a different story, and that could seriously impact the services that those barrier islands provide.
Any other comments?
Oil is, of course, toxic to plants too, and the degree of toxicity depends upon the amount of oil and the duration of exposure. And Marion certainly knows that, being a toxicity expert. I think we often think of the sand barrier islands as being our protection, and they are, and it's a lot easier to clean up oil off sand, but you also have to think that those sandy beaches are just full of live balsam there, the donac shells, and the ghost crabs, and the ghost shrimp. It's just richly full of life. So right now, what's happening in Louisiana, where they're dredging up all of these near-shore sand to produce sand barriers, they're killing lots and lots of organisms while they're doing it, disrupting communities. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, and all of these things. There's a dark side to almost everything you do to try to solve the problem.
Yeah, there are really no good answers to it. It's just trying to take the best shot. We have another question from our audience here.
Back in the 1960s, there was a river, I want to say in Chicago, that lit on fire due to the environmental, industrial pollutants that had been emptied into the river. And it kind of set forth into the environmental movement of the 60s. And then later on, we had, again, an environmental awareness movement with the Exxon Valdez. And I wanted to ask how much do you think that this recent incident would add more fire to that environmental movement? Or like how will BP be able to kind of like lessen the public environment that it will get from this?
I think one of the points you were going at is what has been the outcomes of these various events, and one that you were talking about, I think it's the Chattahoochee River in Ohio that was there. What has come out of a number of these types of environmental insults have been regulations to address water issues. For example, the Clean Water Act came out of the 60s, and it has been the basis of really turning around the current system around where a number of these rivers no longer catch fire, actually water quality improvement. So it's been very important. And out of the Valdez came the Hospital Response Act and Liability Act as well. And so clearly, I think that it has been unfortunate for us that it takes these kind of tragic incidents to mobilize the political will to move forward and do those things to protect our environment. So that is certainly will be something I think will come out of this incident without any doubt. I'm sure of that. But
The costs that BP is dealing with now and trying to contain this spill will certainly be a motivation to industry to try to come up with solutions prior to drilling deep water again. And that's a positive aspect of this, at least, the costly one.
one of the I'll answer the question. Now, please go ahead. Yes.
You know, obviously, we don't have any contact with the people who are working this problem. And I think, you know, perhaps you can pick up the phone and also let the national question. I think somebody had said, you know, how come we is listening to an entrepreneur about it? My question is twofold. Is one, you know, was there a double stack on this? Offshore drilling in most of the world requires a double stack instead of a single stack. This appears to be a single stack. Why would that be the case? The stacking would be able. And the second part of the question is the mechanics that they have undertaken. The pumping of the mud was more of a, to me, it seemed to be an attempt to get pressure relief. The weight of that mud is obviously not sufficient to hold back the pressure. So you get your pressure relief and you design a line. When the line is to treat the oil, if this had been 1920 on shore, we would be building dikes around Corpus Christi and saving oil. So in a way, what's happening here appears to that EE is still trying to come up with a way to capture this oil. If you have gone through all these mechanisms and you still see the problem that you have, why couldn't you just lower another DOP onto the stack, create the double stack that was supposedly supposed to be there at the beginning, and use that second DOP to do that? Can you pulse on the past and that? Because they're certainly not that type of thing.
Well, you ask a very good question, and frankly, I think probably way beyond our capacity. One of the things that we don't have at the Harte Research Institute is a very well-developed engineering component, which you clearly could provide. Of course, with the university's new engineering program, we hope to correct that in the near future. And certainly, I do have access. I wrote that note down, and whether I can understand the answers when you get back, I will ask that question and get it forward for you. So I appreciate that greatly.